Welcome to the complete and detailed Lauma guide. Lauma is the newest Dendro 5-star catalyst coming to Genshin Impact in 6.0, with insane Dendro reaction buffs and great sub DPS. In this video, I'm explaining Lauma's kit, her best builds, artifacts, talents, best teams, constellations, and also the new Notcry mechanic Moonsign. Without further ado, let's dive straight in.
These BBLs killing y'all.
Now, starting things off, what does Lauma actually do? Lauma is somewhat of a complicated character when it comes to her kit, since she needs very very rotations to activate her buffs. However, her main damage source comes from her talent, Moonsign Benediction, Nature's Chorus. If Lauma is in the team and any party member triggers a bloom reaction, it will be converted into lunar bloom, dealing an additional dendro tick of damage based on her elemental mastery. For every 1 EM that Lauma has, she increases the lunar bloom damage by 0.0175%, stacking up to a maximum of 14%. Now, Lauma's A2 passive is where things get slightly more interesting. Depending on the moon sign of the character's team, Lauma will give one of two buffs. But before diving into said buffs, what even is Moonsign? Moonsign is the newest regional passive that will be available to all Notcry characters. It works similarly to Natlan characters having Night Soul bursts and Fontaine units having Weesia and Numa alignments. The only difference is that your Moonsign will change depending on how many Notcry characters you have in your party. If you have one Notcry character, you will gain Moonsign Nascent Gleam, and if you have two Notcry characters, you will gain Moonsign Ascended Gleam. The buffs you gain from Moonsign will change depending on every character. However, in Lauma's case, if you have Moonsign Nascent Gleam, which means if you only have one Notcry character, in this case just Lauma, all Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Bursion damage dealt by all your party members will now crit. The reactions will have a fixed 15% chance of critting and a fixed 100% crit damage. So she's not necessarily just a Bloom support and she can work with the other Bloom reactions. Also, other effects like Nahida's C2 can stack on top of her passive, so she can increase both the crit rate and crit damage of her reactions. As for her Moonsign Ascended Gleam passive, which means two Notcry characters in your party including Lauma, all Lunar Bloom crit rate will increase by 10% and crit damage will increase by 20%. Keep in mind this only applies for Lunar Bloom and not the other Bloom related reactions. Her A4 passive increases her elemental skill damage by 0.04% for each point of elemental mastery, stacking up to a maximum of 32%, and it also decreases her charged skill cooldown by 0.02%, stacking up to 20%. Yeah, she's the first ever character to have a charged skill cooldown, but more on that later. Speaking of her elemental skill, it has two different forms. When you tap it, she will summon a deer that deals instances of dendro damage both on and off of the field. It also decreases the enemy's hydro and dendro res. And if you want to activate a part of her buff and enter her deer form, you can hold her skill, but keep in mind it will consume stacks of Verdant Dew. But what even is Verdant Dew? Basically, Verdant Dew is a stack that you get when a character in your party triggers Lunar Bloom. You can get a max of 3 stacks, and when you hold her skill, you can turn them into moon songs. But what even is moon song? Moon songs are turned into pale hymns. Yeah, another buff term. Her kit is a whole essay at this point, bro. When using Lauma's elemental burst, Lauma gains 18 stacks of pale hymn. Basically, every stack of pale hymn increases 1 tick of bloom, hyper bloom, and burst damage based on Lauma's elemental mastery. If your Bloom or Bursion hit multiple enemies, you will lose multiple stacks of Pale Hymn depending on the number of enemies that were hit. Each stack of Moonsong, the buff you gain from holding her skill after doing Lunar Bloom reactions, will turn into 6 stacks of Pale Hymn, a total of 18 additional stacks, putting you at a total of 36 stacks if you do her rotations correctly. By the way, her elemental burst doesn't do any damage or heal anybody at C0, she just activates her buffs this way. It's like a Farina ultimate without the tick. Okay, that was a mouthful, but I know Lauma's kit seems complicated on paper, but it's actually super simple in-game. Just do Dendro and Hydro Lunar Bloom reactions 3 times, hold her skill to turn the dewdrops into moon songs, use your burst to turn moon songs into pale hymns, and then watch the enemies die. It's that simple.
These BBLs killing y'all.
And with that out of the way, let's talk about how to actually build Lauma. For the artifacts, her best in slot is going to be the new set, Silken Moon Serenade. The 2-piece is okay, it increases your energy recharge by 20%, which Lauma won't really need because her burst is quite low energy cost, but the 4-piece increases the entire party's elemental mastery between 60 and 120 when the equipping character does an elemental reaction. It also increases the party's lunar reactions, in this case both Lunar Bloom and Lunar Charged if you want to play her with Ineffa or Flins. But since this is going to be a new set and no one can really pre-farm it, Flower of Paradise Lost can also work because of the tons of EM it gives and the Bloom reaction buffs. But keep in mind it won't work with Lunar Bloom and it will only buff your original Bloom reactions. Deepwood can also work, but it's not optimal since any other character on your team can hold this set and have the same effect. You can also mix 2-piece EM sets with the best substats before farming the new set. For artifact stats, aim for triple EM or EM Sands, Dendro Damage Goblet, and Crit Circlet. But full EM build will probably still be better since the crit scaling on the Bloom reactions are fixed and do not depend on Lauma's personal crit. Now as for weapons, her signature, Nightweaver's Looking Glass, is by far her best in slot. It has 542 base attack and increases EM by 264. Basically what this weapon does is when the equipping character deals Hydro or Dendro elemental skill damage, it will increase the character's elemental mastery by 60 at R1. When another character in the party triggers a Lunar Bloom reaction, elemental mastery increases by an additional 60. And when both EM buffs are active, it will increase the entire party's Bloom damage by 120%, Hyper Bloom damage by 80%, and Lunar Bloom damage by 40%, all at R1. Another good 5-star weapon if you don't want to go for her R1, you can go for Yumemizu. Another good weapon if you don't want to go for her R1, you can go for Signature. For the insane boost of EM, Sitlali's signature if you don't have Mizuki's weapon, Nahita's signature, or the new 5-star crafted weapon. Its passive increases Bloom damage by 48% and Lunar Bloom damage by 12%. And if the team has Moonsign Ascended Gleam, which basically means if you have 2 not quite characters in your party, it will increase Lunar Bloom damage by an additional 12%.
These BBLs killing y'all.
While Lauma's buffs lean more towards Lunar Bloom and regular Bloom, she can work with multiple other reactions like Burgeon and Hyper Bloom. However, her best team is definitely going to be Nilou. Nilou is definitely her best teammate since both Nilou's Bountiful Cores and Lauma's Lunar Bloom don't override each other and can both proc at the same time. Specifically, Lauma, Nilou, Aino, and Baiju. Aino will probably be replaced in the future when other Dendro or Hydro Notcry characters come out to trigger 2-character Notcry buff. Baiju is a must since Bloom deals a lot of damage to your active character and you need a healer. He can be swapped out for Yao Yao or Llama C1, more on that later. You can use a Hydro healer like Kokomi or Barbara to swap out Nilou and Baiju for Nahida. If you're looking to play her outside of Bloom, you can always slot her in Burgeon or Hyper Bloom and get similar value. You can pair her up with Raiden, Kuki, Toma, or even the new character Flins in a somewhat Lunar Hyper Bloom Lunar Charged game style, and they surprisingly work super well with each other.
These BBLs killing y'all.
As for her Constellations, she probably has one of the best C1s in the game. After Lauma uses her elemental skill, she will heal your party based off of her elemental mastery, and it will trigger once every few seconds. This Constellation is super good, especially because of how much Lauma needs a healer in her Nilou Bloom teams, and by getting this Constellation, you can swap out all your healers for more damage like a C2 Nahida or any other better Dendro applier. Her C2 is also super cracked because it increases all of your party members' Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon damage by a further 500% of her elemental mastery, and she increases their Lunar Bloom damage by a further 400%. Her C3 and C5 are just upgrades to her talents, and her C4 is the most useless dogshit Constellation I have ever. Oh my god. You telling me I pulled 5 copies of this woman for her to regain 4 elemental energy every 5 seconds? What is... Basically, after she uses her elemental skill, she gains 4 elemental energy every 5 seconds. That's it. This is Xiao C4 all over again. Her C6 is a whole essay. But summarized, basically after her elemental skill hits an opponent 8 times, she will gain 2 more stacks of Pale Hymn without consuming them. And she also increases your entire party members' lunar bloom damage by 25% if you have 2 Not Cry characters in your party. Now if you should go for her C1 or R1, it's honestly really neck and neck. I feel like C1 makes her so much more flexible since she becomes the healer you're missing on the team, and it liberates you from needing a Hydro or Dendro healer. While the weapon is super good, I feel like it is replaceable, especially with the crafted weapon. And if you're going for the C1, you should probably just pick up C2 at that point, because it's basically just another burst stacked on top of your initial one, which is like a huge damage boost for your characters. And that wraps up my complete Lauma guide. She's shaping up to be one of the most powerful Dendro supports we've seen, with insane synergy for bloom based reactions. And while I feel like she's quite expensive to reach her final damage ceiling, it's really rewarding to invest in her, especially because she works in both AoE and single target. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more in-depth Genshin content. Thanks for watching and good luck on your Lauma pulls.